Now, I know people tend to. That's actually fascinating. I didn't really think about that. Taking a trip is like going out to St. Augustine, looking at an old graveyard, an old fort. That'd be great if you could actually be writing a book about that kind of set piece.
Right, right.
That's actually brilliant. Once again, you happen to be in a state that has a lot of that kind of history around there, so that's a fascinating look at things. What I was thinking is, I think a lot of people tend to zoom in on the ghost aspect of or Marshall Drummond himself in the Max Porter series,
Hmm.
and I kind of like Max a lot. Getting past the supernatural fact, the fact that you made him like the everyday guy. I don't know if you want to mention other characters or authors on this little video or not, but he reminds me very much of a very famous detective and basically my favorite novelist of all time, who is a recurring. He had like 20 books or whatever, but he lost
Go
his.
ahead. I mean,
Hmm?
who are you
I'm
talking
talking about
about
Travis
specifically?
McGee from John McDonald.
Oh,
So
sure, sure.
he lost as many fights as he ever won. He was constantly in a bad way. He wasn't going in there and bowling
Hmm.
over roomfuls of people like an action star. So
Right,
I
right.
find Max a very vulnerable character in a way. He's not the street tough. He's just getting by on his brain somewhat, and of course, a lot of help from his steely willed wife. So I know I like that aspect of him a lot. It really gives him a real human flavor to it, and it makes basically he could be anybody. So I love that aspect of
Yeah,
him.
that's true. It's funny. It's funny. It got to a point though. With again, there's 11 books in the series, so there's a lot has happened to him. And there was a point, I forget which book it is, where he starts taking Taekwondo lessons because he does get beat up a lot in the early books, and he's just like tired of it. And so he can hold his own a lot better now, but he's still. Not like a master or anything. He's not going to be pulling out Jackie Chan moves. But he at least that now he knows how to throw a punch a little bit, and all that. But he's still, yeah, his his superpower is that he's really good at research. He knows how to research things and find the information that he needs, and he has a kind of an intuitive ability to take. He can make intuitive leaps with this information, which is what they need. And he's got Marshall Drummond to throw the punches. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to have a hero who's not a hero in that sense.
Yeah, I bet that would be a really easy trap for a writer to fall into, especially when you have like a tent pole or a flagship character in a series. To start turning him, Rambo or whatever, for lack of a better term,
Right,
and
right.
making him almost invincible. This that I think is removes all tension from a book. I mean, you're pretty sure the main character is going to survive the book, but I mean, if he's getting himself in tight spots, eventually, weird things do happen in the literary in the literary world. Sometimes they do croak. So,
Right.
he's one punch
And,
away
and
from his
that's
last.
always a challenge.
Mm.
That is always a challenge. I mean, the series is called the Max Porter Paranormal Mysteries. He's not going to die like permanently, But there's a lot of things that can and do happen to him, that can alter his life terribly. Uh, and so, that's always a challenge as an author: is how much damage can you do to your characters and get away with it?
I do have a question, another more specific one on Mr. Modesto. I don't know, he reminds me of a lot of bosses that people tend to hate over the years. Real robotic and didactic. And is there any inspiration from him, from any real life figures? I know I asked you this kind of before, but or literary figures before that you base him on? Because I kind of find him
Right.
fascinating.
Yeah, he's a neat character, and I have to think back. Because a lot has happened since those early books
No
to these
spoiler alert,
characters,
but
and yeah, well, I'm trying. I don't want to give away things to both to the readers or to
mm,
to you as a reader. Um, but no, he's not. There, I don't recall him being inspired by anyone in specific. I just needed an intimidating character who was the go-between between for because he's not for the people who haven't read it, the Hull family is the family that kind of runs magic in North Carolina, and he is their consigliere kind of character who is an advisor, and he does a lot of the dirty work and is the face of the family a lot of the time. So I mean he's kind of an amalgamation of characters like that, that might have the Godfather, he's a fixer and all these things wrapped up in one. he was just what I needed, and that's what my imagination came up with.
He reminds me of an engineer I used to work with when I was in telecom, and no sense of humor whatsoever. Very literal with everything, and he did not speak to people very well. Brilliant guy, but yeah, that's how he always reminds me of him.
Mhm.
So I get this picture of him in my head, just reading your pages again. So thanks for bringing up that painful memory
Right.
again. But so, all right, we won't harp too long on the Max Porter series, but let's talk about just writing in general. Do you have, since being a full-time writer that you are now, do you have a set writing schedule, like daily, weekly, monthly? Do you set goals for yourself that you rigidly follow, or are you more freelance as you go?
um, I have a set schedule that I try to keep, and the process of writing is always kind of in evolution. So the way I did it 5 books ago is not necessarily the way it's happening today, and it will alter as things alter in my life. So in general, I when I'm writing a book, I try to write a minimum of 2,000 words a day. So like right now, I'm not actually writing anything. The things I was writing, was writing. Yeah, was writing. I'm a writer. I should be able to put that sentence together. I have a book, and the next Nathan Kay book, which comes out in May, and I had a Marshall Drummond short story that just came out a few days ago. So I'm plotting out the next book, and when I start actually physically writing it, yeah, I'll be trying to do on average 2,000 words or more a day. I write. I used to do that all in or that's usually when I get started anyway. My mornings tend to be spent doing business, editing things, and then I also do. I do my own audiobooks, so I record in the morning and edit. I'll do all that, and then lately in the afternoons is when I start writing. And then if it takes me, I get it all, I get 2,000 words done by 5 o'clock, and I don't feel like doing any more, I don't have to. If I'm on a roll, then I'll keep doing more. But if it's, this has happened to me before, where it's 10 o'clock at night, and either through mishaps of the day or on purpose, whatever it is, I didn't get enough writing done, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and I don't have my writing done. Usually, I got to get the writing done. So, that's the job never really ends. You're kind of always working on it one way or another. And then it's changed a lot for me lately in the last year or so too, because I developed tendonitis in my arm, and so all that typing is conducive to keeping that calm and not aggravated. So I dictate.
Mm-hmm.
So I record everything, and then I have software that will transcribe it. So now in the mornings I tend to download everything I recorded the day before and have it transcribed while I'm taking a shower or whatever, and then come back and edit it all so that it makes sense, because things don't always transcribe cleanly, which is really great because when I'm finished writing the whole book, it's already been cleaned up editorially for one pass. So I get cleaner and cleaner copy every time that I'm setting it up. So I like that. Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure how much you have to deal with this now, being more independent and all, but in the past, especially when you're working, try to get your books out there for other people, were deadlines a big deal to you? Is that something you work well with, or is that something you hate, or is it something that really helps you a lot? Just, I know it helps me. I'm good. I'm much better with a deadline without.
Yeah. No, I like deadlines, and I have to have them. If anything, my deadlines are harder, like more important and harder set than they would be with a major publisher. Because a major publisher, yeah, they have a deadline for you. You have to have your book in by May 1st. But what's going to happen is you're going to hand it to them, and it's going to go sit on a stack for the next 7 months before they get around to actually working on it. So if you don't get it in for another week, they're going to make you feel bad because they want to have control over you. But the fact is, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't get it in for another 3 months, because it's just not going to get touched until later. For me, my deadlines are important because they're based on a release date. I have a schedule for the year because I need to, in order, part of what makes my living work is that I put out anywhere from 4 to 6 novels a year, plus some novellas and short stories. So the only way I can do that is if I'm organized and I have a deadline and I say, okay, you know, for example, on May 7th, Prisoner, which is the Nathan K. #8, that is being released on May 7th. So I have a whole spreadsheet set up, and I put in May 7th, and it backdates everything. So I know that, I'm in, right now I'm in an editing phase with it, and doing revisions on it. I have, today's April 5th. I have 10 days to get it done so that it can go to my beta readers so they have enough time to read it and respond so that, assuming everything's okay, it'll actually get out on time. So if I don't get it done, if I miss that date, and don't get it to the beta readers in time, they're not going to have. I give them, and some of them need it. Some of them have it done in a day, but some of them won't get around to it. If I want things to work properly, and in order to get there, I had to have the book done a few weeks ago, the rough draft. So yeah, I have a lot of dates actually for the whole process of getting a book out, and I have everything timed out, so I know how many. I give myself so many weeks to do all the research and plotting before I actually write, and I have those dates set out so that everything ideally works like clockwork. It never does. Things happen, and I'll have to rework the dates. But there's just no way I could get any of it done if I could just tell myself, oh, it'll come out when it comes out. And the readers don't like that. Readers, especially now, are very used to television and streaming video and things like that. So and podcasts, and they expect, they're fine. If you tell a reader, look, there's going to be another Max Porter book this year, near the end of the year, which is what's going to happen. They're fine with it. They're not going to be upset with me that I don't have one next week. But if we get into the fall or winter or whenever I have it scheduled, and I say, I'm sorry, but it's not going to come out till June of 2020, I'm going to lose readers. They're going to be like, well, they're going to move on to find something else, and maybe they'll remember you when, it's just, you can't afford it.
Yeah, it's like eating a meal in a bad meal in a restaurant. You might never go back. I mean, something as small as that. Right. There's so much to choose from out there now. Choice is almost is bad almost for the writer in some way because they have plenty of things you have to keep satisfying them, or else that ship might sail on you.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah. I mean, I know it's a long answer, but it is so important to have those deadlines and keep to them, and at least that's how I feel. As a professional, I think that's part of being a professional is delivering on time, quality work, and knowing what you can do. I know I can write 2,000 words a day, 3,000 words a day even, and keep my quality up. I could write 6,000 words in a day, but I have a feeling the quality would suffer just to try and get that many words out. So I'm working towards it. Ideally, I keep trying to work more faster and harder and get more out there, but it's finding that balance. Okay, at this point in my career, I can write this fast, get this much quality, and make my deadlines. Hopefully, next year I can write this much faster, yet, and still keep that quality up, and then I can get more deadlines.
So, what advice would you give to the aspiring writer out there, someone who's just got their start? Maybe they just got their creative writing degree or whatever it is, or the English Lit degree, or even without that, and they just want to get started. What advice would you give that person?
Sit down and write. That really, at the beginning, your job is to learn your craft. Don't worry about making money. Don't worry about publishing. The first thing you got to do is write that first book. It's like we were talking in the beginning. You have to get over the hump of writing it. You have to be able to look back and figure out what's wrong with it, and and improve, and know that it never ends. I still am always trying to learn how to be better at my craft, but you need to be really good at it because there is competition. I mean, we're in a sense we're all in this together. Just because you bought my book doesn't mean you can't buy somebody else's book. It's not a zero sum game where if you buy my book you can't buy anybody else's book. And for the really voracious readers, they'll buy everybody's books. I've seen that. I've been at countless book fairs where somebody will come and literally go to every table and buy something from every table. So you're not in competition in that sense, but you are in competition in a different sense, which is, they might buy your book once, but if your craft is not very good, they may never come back and buy anything else. And if your craft is not good, if your craft is really poor, then you're going to lose sales online when they check the sample out and they're like, well, that guy can't write. That gal is not doing the job. So they'll go find somebody who can. And you're in competition with me and other writers who actually, we do know what we're doing. And we do put out a very professional product, which you need to do. But that's the business side of it, putting out a good cover and edited well in one form or another. And, that's all important, but you have to have something to publish before you worry about the publishing side of it. And too many people now they're still have this mentality that there's like this gold rush on where they can just jump in and be rich by writing anything. And it's just not true. It was slightly true for about the first year, maybe 2 years of indie publishing, simply because nobody was doing it. So anybody who put anything out was going to sell because the people who wanted to buy the stuff had very limited choice. But now the choice is immense, and so one of the things that's going to help you stand out and help you, most importantly, keep readers is quality work.
Gotcha.